looks like we'll be ready to start soon. Looks like our runners are both about ready to start, so I guess we'll just have to wait till it happens. All right, and looks like we're going. So I'm sure all of you have heard this a million times by now, but basically Celeste is a two-dimensional platformer where you can jump, you can climb walls, as you can see our runners doing, and there's also the dash mechanic, which is the main mechanic of the entire game, and it's used in pretty much every single situation. And obviously it's a dash, it's faster than normal movement, so we make use of that to make our runs much quicker than if we didn't have dashing. In fact, it's not even possible to go without dashing, but um we do have our normal dash, which we can use in any of the 8 directions in here, the 4 cardinal ones, and then obviously diagonal. But there are many other uses for it. There are many other forms of dashing. Like, as we can see, our runners are both doing these dash jumps, which are basically a dash and then a jump quickly, like quickly in succession, which gives you not only um, which not only gives you extra distance, but it also gives you a little bit of height, and it can be fairly useful to keep momentum, keep speed, and just kind of make your run a bit faster. And then what we just saw from King Captain is what we call a reverse hyper dash. And I should probably explain what hyper dashes are. Basically, hyper dashes are they're basically the dash jumps I explained earlier, except they travel lower to the ground and they go much further, and they obviously give a lot more speed as well since they go further. And this is the kind of main dash mechanic we'll be seeing over the run, since it's used to maximize your momentum, your speed, and basically how fast you go. And then there are also 2 different variants of those the dashes I just explained. There is the extended of each, where basically you do that dash, but you're able to get your dash back before you complete it. So you can kind of have 2 dashes in the air, even though you would normally only have 1. And then there's the reverse of those variants, which is a bit of a niche mechanic. It's not used in many situations, but it can be somewhat useful if you're operating on like kind of a small area. You don't have enough room to get an extended, but it's like a way to get an extended extended hyper or something from kind of a small space. And now we're seeing from King Captain is he's now in he's in chapter 2, which basically has these dream blocks, which they're basically blocks that allow you to just move across their surface area at like a high speed. So they can offer some pretty quick movement, since obviously you can't move them, but they are pretty fast. And what we also see is you can jump out of the dream blocks, so after you go out of them you can get some extra distance. And I'm not sure we'll be seeing it from our runners here, but there is a very difficult technique where you can actually hyper dash out of the dream blocks, which gives you an immense amount of speed, and it's for maximum optimization in your runs. And one thing I forgot to mention is how King Captain now is in the battling section. Basically, this pragmatic part of you is chasing you around this level, kind of like Shadow Mario from the Mario Galaxy, where basically all battling does is mimic your movements after maybe a 3-second interval, I believe. So you kind of just have to be wary of where battling would be, especially in the rooms like the one King Captain is in, where you have to do a lot of backtracking. But he's able to clean it up perfectly fine, and he's heading out of this section while Nerd Squared is just entering it. And now what we're seeing from King Captain is he's in the awake section, which basically there's no way to die in the awake section. It's just kind of you trying to move literally as fast as possible, which will make use of a lot of hyper dashes, a lot of bunny hops, which is a bunny hops out of the hypers, which is a useful mechanic we'll see a lot more in these runs. And now we have him going into Chapter 3, Celestial Resort, which is probably the kind of most disliked chapter of the game. There's these dust bunnies which all move on cycles, but basically what happens is when you enter a room, they're on a certain cycle, but like there's a little bit of a delay because there's kind of you setting up, or well, there's a delay since the cycles start before you kind of get like during the screen transition. So basically every time you die, it's the same cycle, but it's on a different interval because there's not the screen transition issue to worry about, which kind of annoys people. It's what we call the death cycle, and you kind of have to learn 2 different cycles for each room if you want to maximize or kind of your times for these runs in the case you get a mistake, because it is very easy to mess up on Chapter 3 as well. This is a very unforgiving level, and a lot of people say it's like a difficulty spike in between the 2 first chapters and then Chapter 4, which is much easier than this one. So now what King Captain is doing is the huge mech section. Basically have to hit 3 buttons, and well, to get to these buttons there are many difficult rooms you have to traverse through, and we have a lot of speed strats. Like in this next one we actually do what we call a spike jump, where it looks like we're jumping off a bunch of spikes, but basically a trick you can do is if you kind of head in the opposite direction of spikes, or technically the same way they're pointing, and like you're moving away from the wall which they're on, you can technically jump off the spikes if you time your jumps correctly. And the spike jump in that room saves about 5-ish seconds, I want to say, which is pretty useful. Taking a bit of a death though. He was trying to do a wall bounce off there, and the dust bunny caught him, which is unfortunate, but not a big time loss either way. And now we have Nerd Squared. He's now heading into the huge mess section, a little bit behind King Captain, but not an astronomical amount, obviously, as you can see. So now King Captain, he's finishing up the huge mess section. So basically, yeah, he's done that portion. He's heading into the next little bit. The last bit before our next boss fight, which is obviously coming up, so I'll explain that when we get there. And the trick we'll see from King Captain, I'm guessing here, is where basically he chains 4 hypers, and he's able to get that key quickly. And he did a retry there, because a retrying and going back to the start of the room is quicker than going all the way back the intended route, because you, after you die, you still keep a key if you were holding it, which is proves to be pretty useful in that place and one other place in the run. And now King Captain's heading into the Oshiro portion of the fight, where basically Oshiro, our good old friend Battlein, decided to call his hotel trash. And since we look like Battlein, Oshiro's now mad at us, and we have to run away from him. And basically his mechanics are basically he just kind of he moves on cycles just like everything else in this level. But basically after a certain amount of time he'll lock on to your Y position and do basically a horizontal dash across the entire screen. And if you don't move out of the way quickly, then obviously he'll kill you. And in this room King Captain is in, you can lose a lot of time if you die to Oshiro, especially at the end, since this is one of the longest rooms in the entire game. Nerd Squared having a bit of trouble with this one dust bunny. Moving on, as you can see, he's moving pretty quickly, so you have to do a bit of difficult timing there, but he's able to clean it up after a few tries. And King Captain now, oh, but he gets the retry in there instead of the skip cutscene. Another thing I forgot to mention is how the skip cutscene is in the exact same try button. So if you happen to get there, you can actually retry instead of skipping a cutscene, and it can lose a lot of time, especially in a few sections. And here in this room, we're gonna see King Captain making another use of that spike jump I mentioned earlier, and he does it first try pretty cleanly. And Nerd Squared is now in the Oshiro section, where he'll be doing the same thing we saw from Captain earlier. Ooh, missing the bumper there, and taking a bit of a rough death. Ooh, Nerd getting a bit of a save there. Just barely dodged the Oshiro dash there. But taking two kind of rough deaths at the beginning of that room. And King Captain now, he's about to get to the last part of the of Golden Ridge. As we can see, there's this very windy portion, and what we might see from here, if he goes for it, he doesn't end up going for it, but there is a fast cycle you can get where you kind of abuse that wind mechanic so it can kind of push you from one side of the screen to the other. And now we see him in the cliff face section, which offers some very, very rough winds. And as you can see, you can't really move unless you dash. And also what we see is there are these snowballs, which are basically mini Oshiros. I mean, I guess that's what they are. They're basically mini Oshiros that don't offer a warning of where they're coming from, and they are much smaller. And they come from the opposite direction. So, in some ways they're easier because there's less area where they'll hit you, but they also don't offer warnings, and they come towards you instead of away from you. So you can kind of, if you're not careful, you'll get kind of killed by them pretty easily. But we see King Captain finishing it up with, I believe, is a 340, a pretty decent time, I guess. I mean, I don't know what he finds decent, but not a bad time. And Nerd Squared just starting up Chapter 4. Taking a bit of a rough death there. He can't get the extension on the dash jump on the cloud, but he's able to clean it up second try. And King Captain now in the Mirror Temple section, where we have a lot of more mechanics thrown at us. There are these red bubbles, which basically they just move literally forever until you either dash out of them or hit a wall. Ooh, and he can't beat that cycle. I think he went a little bit too quick for it and got caught, but he's able to clean it up after that. Ooh, and we see him using. Ooh, what we saw from King Captain is he was trying a bit of a swag strat, where basically, when you go into a cutscene and you skip it, the game holds your Y position, but it changes your X position. So what he tried to do is he tried to make it so he was at the same altitude as that room with the button going into the cutscene. So when after he skipped it, he would go right into that room. There is a variation of it used in Chapter 2, which is much easier. That one is a bit of a task strat. It's not really used much in runs because it's kind of a lot more difficult to pull off, but he tried for it. Didn't waste him too much time, but did lose him a little bit, which come to kind of haunt him later in the run if it does. And we see Nerd also going for a little bit of swag strat, where he's trying to get a wave dash off the little top of these platforms. There's a very small window to get it, and it looks like he's having a bit of trouble. He's able to pull it off there, but he did waste a bit of time trying to get that little strat. But I mean, I guess you can say he did it, just a little bit of flash there. And King Captain now is in the unwrap. Even more friends. We have these seekers dash mechanic where they can just see them, or if they see you. But a little trick we can use with these seekers is we can manipulate them so they can actually hit these coin buttons for us, which does save a bit of time. It's not really found in many other places in this run, mainly in the unraveling section, but it is pretty useful. It does save a bit of time. Ooh, but he takes a bit of a rough death there. He couldn't use. now we see him going into the search section, which houses the entire game's search skip, which is actually a developer intended skip, which requires a reverse extended jump dash, and just to get over this gap. Oh, when he can't get the extended part of it, that try, he has to go back and get it, but this skip actually saves about 1, maybe 2 minutes, depending on how you play, which is obviously very useful. It's basically an essential if you want to speedrun this game. Now we see King Captain heading into the Theo section, or the rescue section, where basically you have to carry our friend Theo in a crystal, and he does limit your movement. You can't dash or climb while you're holding him, but you can throw him and dash or hyper dash or do whatever you want to. And what happens with Theo is if you like do a throw him, do a hyper dash, and then grab him, he actually conserves your momentum a bit more than if you didn't have him. So it kind of allows for a little bit of movement. There's an insane task strat, which obviously isn't RTA viable, but it's pretty crazy seeing it, where you can get an absolutely insane amount of speed using the momentum from Theo. And I mean, a variation of it is possible. It's just not as intense. And we saw King Captain go for it, where you where you throw Theo and then hyper off that one block, as we saw a few rooms ago. And now he's heading into the last Seeker room of Chapter 5, about to finish up, as Nerd Squared is just starting it. He's not too far behind, which obviously isn't bad, considering how kind of the difference between their two personal bests. And we see King Captain, ooh, but he's getting screwed by that eyeball there, but he's able to clean it up. But like those wave pulses we saw from that eyeball kind of screwed him up at the end there. And Nerd Squared having a bit of trouble with that room. Let's see if he can clean it up second try though. He's able to save it there, and he's able to get it second try after a bit of a time loss, but not the biggest. And King Captain now is heading into Chapter 6 Reflection. And what we have here are these feathers, which are they offer omnidirectional movement. Ooh! We have Nerd Squared getting screwed by that bubble. It looked like he gave it like a hug, but the bubble didn't want to be hugged, and it just like didn't let him in there. A bit of a rough death, and he gets another one there near the end, which is a big time loss. This is one of the longer rooms in Chapter 5. But we can see if he cleans it up. Oh, when he dies there again, I don't want to jinx him anymore. So I'll just and he ends up cleaning it up. Fairly nice. A bit of time lost there because it's a bit of a longer room, but he's able to get there after a little bit. And King Captain now, I forgot to mention the what we call the Kevin blocks. Basically, Kevin from Power Up Audio was the one who recorded it. We can't hear it now. In fact, let me see if I can. Or no, I'll just leave. When Nerd Squared gets there, since we're hearing audio from his stream, you'll be able to hear it if you haven't already. But basically, Kevin from Power Up Audio is the one who recorded the noise we see from those Kevin blocks, as we call them. And it's a fairly amusing noise, enough to coin that mechanic, name that mechanic after him. So... And now Nerd Squared is in the unraveling section, where he's gonna have to deal with these Seekers. Having a bit of trouble in that first room, not getting the fastest strat, but he's able to clean it up. Oh, he's dashing right into the Seeker, but not in the part where you can get killed by the Seeker. But then he has 2 rough deaths. I don't want to jinx him any more than I already have, so I'll just be quiet. And into the grandma, I guess we can call her. And now he's heading into the part of reflection before the battle and fight. Yes, we have another battle and fight. And he's opting to go for the safer strat here. It's a very smart move on him, because he does get a death, but he's able to get the checkpoint at that one area on the left of the room. So he's able to save a bit of time, instead of if he did in fact 3 shortcuts there and not get the checkpoint. And what we might see here from King Captain is what we call battle and boosting, where you get a hyper dash into a bunny hop. He's not able to get it there, but what you're able to do is get a extended hyper into a bunny hop on the Kevin block, and going into that first battling room will give you an immense amount of speed, which obviously does save some time. It's not the biggest time save, it's not a skip, but it is a strategy used nonetheless. And in this game, any time save matters, because you can lose time literally anywhere. And now he's on the battle and fight, where we fight Battle-In again, but instead of mimicking our movement, she decides to just sit back and shoot lasers at us, and they are also cycle based, because I think I forgot to mention, but nothing in this game is actually RNG based, which is very good. Everything comes down to a player skill, which is a very good idea on the part of the developers. But basically, after a certain amount of time, she will shoot lasers at you, and you kind of just have to know when to move away, when to kind of, like, where and when you have to be in that room, because you don't exactly want to get shot by a laser. And King Captain now is about to head into the second phase of the battle and fight. I've actually heard someone call it the I forget what they called it. They called it something funny. I forget what it is now. Basically, what Battle-In could do now is she can control these blocks on cycles, just as basically her laser firing. So you kind of have to account for not only Battle-In, but also these blocks, and when to jump on them, when to not be on them, because you can lose, because you can die fairly often. Playing this casually is very difficult, as many things in this game are, but as we can see, King Captain is able to make decent work of it. Nerd Squared now, he's on the rescue section, where he's got to help Theo get out of here. And I was jinxing him, but I was jinxing his deaths a bit in the unraveling section. I hope I don't do that anymore, but you can't avoid the commentator's curse. It always is there. Of course, as soon as I say that. I guess that confirms my theory. King Captain now, he's about to finish. He hits the battle and ball, I guess we can call it, and he's able to finish up chapter 6, and he now has a second dash going into the final chapter. And Nerd Squared is trying something I haven't ever seen before. Looks like I jinxed him again. Terrific. It looks like that strat actually worked for him. I've never seen that used before. It's fairly interesting there. And King Captain now, he's on the final chapter, chapter 7, Summit. And Nerd Squared now finishing up chapter 5. He had a bit of a rough one there, thanks to me commentator cursing him. Sorry for that, I guess, but I guess we can see how he does in chapter 6 now. And King Captain, as I forgot to mention, is in 500 meters. Basically in Summit, all the parts of this level are remixed, kind of bits from previous chapters. As we can see, this is basically a remixed bit of chapter 1. We have all the bumpers, ice blocks, you name it. Ooh, but he hits those spikes when he's trying to make that shortcut. Bit of a rough death there. Let's see if he cleans it up second try at least. And he does clean up second try. It looks like with the strat he was using, he just forgot to get that wall climb. And now he's in the chapter 2 remix bit, 1,000 meters. As we can see, there are these dream blocks. And I guess there's not much else to explain. It's just chapter 2, but in Summit. King Captain now in the 1500 meter section. This is probably the most difficult section of the entire run. Arguably it is, where basically it's the remix bit of chapter 3. Again, we have these dust bunnies, we have all the cycles, but they're basically implemented much more difficult than they are in chapter 3 itself. And rooms like this, which obviously are a big time waster if you do end up dying on them. And this next room, which actually has one of the most difficult strats used in the entire run. Looks like he's not going for it, but there's the fastest strat in this room. Requires 3 ultra dashes, which I'm not sure I mentioned, but I don't think we've seen any of them in the run so far. So I don't feel it's necessary. But they're basically the fastest form of movement in the entire game. But as we can see, King Captain now is in the final room of 1500 meters, about to finish up. And now he's in the 2000 meter section, chapter 4 remixed. Again, fairly self-explanatory. It's just chapter 4, but in Summit. Ooh, but King Captain getting a bit of a save there. Got screwed by the snowball, but is able to come back. And Nerd getting caught between those bumpers there. The bumpers are possibly one of the most annoying mechanics in the game. They're basically like, some strats will be completely screwed by them, because if you hit them, they can completely change your momentum. They can completely change what direction you're moving in. So they can kind of be a big time waster, depending on if kind of you make a mistake with them. Thankfully, they're not used often in the run, or they're not found often in the run, which is pretty good, I guess. And Nerd Squared now, he's talking to the grandma, about to head into the, I believe the Hollows section? I'm not really sure, but he's about to head into the Battling section. And King Captain now in, probably the most kinda techie bit of, the entire run, I'm guessing. At least I'll say that. Where almost every single room in 2500 meters has some sort of skip, some sort of kind of movement, kind of technique that does save a decent amount of time. Like, in that room we didn't see him go for it, but there's a way you can get like multiple ultra dashes off all those kind of blocks. And what we see him going for here is the is key skip, which basically you need 2 like spike jumps there in quick succession into 2 up dashes in quick succession to get that key, which saves about 10 to 15 seconds, maybe a bit more depending on how you play. And here he's about to do, no, he doesn't end up going for it. And here we have him. Does he go for door skip? He doesn't get it first try. A door skip, which is actually the biggest skip in the game. It actually saves 9 years, which is, and he's not able to get it that time. And I'm just kidding, of course. Door skip, if you don't know, saves literally only a second. But it's a bit of a meme in the community because how difficult it used to be to complete it, but now it's kind of a free skip, somewhat. And we see King Captain, he's about to finish up 2500, about to go into the final bit of Summit. As he cleans that up, he's almost done. And now as we're getting into the final moments of King Captain's run, I'm not sure if he's on PB or PB pace or not. I should probably know this because I believe I ended up commentating. I think I remember commentating his current PB. I remember. Yeah, of course, because I was like screaming because I almost thought he got a sub 40, but then he didn't. But I'm not sure if he's on pace now. It looks like he might not be, as he's taking a few rough deaths in Flag 13. Yeah, I remember what it was called now. I think the part I heard someone call it like the Battle in Super Saiyan bit, where basically she can move all these blocks. I guess I'll call it that. Where Nerd Squared is on the Battle in Super Saiyan bit, I guess. And it looks like he's about to finish. Oh wait, it might look like King Captain could PB because I think if he plays really well, I think he could complete these last few rooms in like 30-ish seconds. It looks like he might get it. Oh, and he's able to clean it up even at low stamina. And he's almost at the end. And he's able to clean it up at a sub 40, at a 39.52. GG there. That was fairly impressive. That's not a big increase. It's only 8 seconds, but it's also a sub 40. So congratulations on the big milestone. GG. And Nerd Squared is able to clean up the battle and fight. He's nearly done with reflection here. And Nerd Squared now finishing up. I'm not sure he is on PB pace. I may be mistaken, because his PB is looking, I think it's a 54. Yes, it's a 54.27, so it doesn't look like he'll be able to pull out a PB unless he plays absolutely insane. Nerd Squared now. He's on the final room of 0 meters, about to get into the next part of Summit. Seems like Nerd Squared can't get, couldn't get that, that kind of strat there. He's able to clean it up. He's now in the last room of 500 meters. Ooh, and just barely gets caught by that dust bunny. That's a bit of a hard cycle to beat there. Looks like he's having a bit of trouble with this room. Let's see if he can clean it up third attempt. Oh, he tries to save there, but he couldn't grab onto the wall. It looks like this room is certainly giving him a bit of trouble right now. He's able to end up cleaning it, but he lost a bit of time there to some unfortunate deaths, kinda some tough cycles in that last room. He gets that jump a bit too late, And it looks like he's able to clean that room second try. Just having a little bit of trouble on that first one with the extended hyper. When he can't grab that battle and ball, I guess that's what I call it, but he's able to get there second try. And he's able to clean that up. Looks like he's deciding to go to that room. A bit of a... I'm not sure that's the faster strat, but I guess what's comfortable for him is what's comfortable for him. So. Looks like he ends up retrying there. That's it, what he was ending up trying to do. Ooh, and he looks like he did a little bit of a circle around that green ball there, but he's able to catch it right at the last second. Oh, and it looks like he's just able to fit under that little gap there. That's certainly a rough death, not one you see every day. He's able to clean that up, and it looks like he's finishing up 2,000 meters now, or he's about to. Oh, it looks like he's getting mixed up a bit with that dash block there. And it looks like he's pausing. Not entirely sure what's going on here, I guess. looks like he's taking a bit of a break. I'm not really sure. Yeah, it looks like he's gone. I mean, let me check something, but I'm not sure what's going on here. It looks like he's back right now. Not sure what happened there. Maybe he had to take a bit of a break. I was hearing a few computer noises, a few beeps and stuff, so maybe something happened. Maybe he ended up having to deal with the dreaded Windows update. It looks like he's attempting to go for key skip, but he's having a little bit of trouble trying to get that last jump there. He ends up getting it after I think those 5-ish tries. I'm not sure. Oh, apparently it was controller issues he was dealing with. So certainly a rough thing to have happen in a match, but it looks like he's back and going now. Opting to not go for door skip, completely respectable. He chooses to play it safe and not go for a 1-second skip. And he's able to clean up 2,500 meters. Now he's going to the final bit of summit. Ooh, he's not able to cling onto that ledge long enough. Takes a bit of a death there. He's still going. Oh, and he runs out of stamina there. A bit of a rough death, but let's see if he can clean up third try now. No, fourth try possibly. And he cleans it up fourth try. Ooh, he's not able to get a big enough jump over the spikes. I guess maybe he's not holding down the jump enough. Kind of seems like it. Oh, and he's opting to go for the, I never knew that block existed. Okay. Oh, and he gets a misdirected dash there. And now he's on the two flags here. Flag 3. It looks like he was grazing the spikes there for a bit. He ends up getting a misdirected dash. A bit unfortunate. It looks like he brings the feather a bit in the wrong direction, but and he's able to clean it up there. And now he's on flag 1. He's about to finish up. And he finishes with exactly a 1 hour and 2 minutes. Oh, never mind. He got the 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 1 second. A little bit of time in between that. So, I guess it's 8 minutes, I believe, behind his PB, which is, I'm not sure he'll be the happiest with that. But he was able to complete the race even after a few controller issues. So, good game to both our runners. And let me see something. So I'm gonna try and find something here. Yeah, so it looks like at the moment there aren't any Celeste races going on right now. However, in about 50-ish minutes, we're going to have another race. So I guess stay tuned for that there. And I believe that's all the time we have, at least for this race. So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you to both our runners for running here and giving you guys some stuff to watch. And thank you to Speed Gaming and all the Speed Gaming staff for helping us for hosting this event and kind of helping everything get working. So yeah, I guess stay tuned. There is another race happening at 6 today between Zik3 and Ruby Dragon. And I guess that's all the time we have now. So again, thank you everybody for watching, and I guess just stay tuned because the Celeste Any Tournament is not going anywhere.